Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan. It is Friday, September 21st, and I'm Nurbek Svetokhunov. Witnesses say internal forces were pulled into a Karaganda region colony on Thursday. Around 400 soldiers and 200 riot police were concentrated by the building walls after several convicts committed acts of self-mutilation.
Families of convicts were asked to leave the visiting room. After a while, according to wives of several prisoners, they heard their husbands screaming, "They are killing us." Families attempted to break the door, and one elderly woman said that special forces almost killed her, fighting back. They told us that everything was all right, that prisoners were just doing sit-ups. When we asked why should they be doing sit-ups, they explained that inmates could be hiding sharp objects in their anuses, and the sit-ups are needed to remove them. But this is rubbish and a huge mockery. According to human rights activist Vadim Kuramshin, 2 days ago the prison was searched while inmates were held outside squatting until the dinner. The next day the beating started. The prison authorities make inmates join so-called law and order groups, which just mean they must report on their cellmates and beat up the new arrivals. There is also information about killed convicts, but it has not been officially confirmed yet. Inmates' wives and mothers say people were killed in barracks number 2 and 4. We're checking this information, and all we know now from the official representatives, namely the deputy prosecutor of the Abay area, is that 2 persons were admitted to the regional hospital in critical condition. But there are likely more victims, since several ambulances were involved for the transportation.
The Correctional System Committee is offering its own explanations of the events in the colony near Karaganda. They reassure that these acts were committed due to standard search operations.
On Thursday, routine searches were conducted in the prison AK 159/18 in Karabas village. The supervision prosecutors were given the task of seizing all illegal items in correctional facilities. As of now, 38 cell phones, 23 chargers and 36 SIM cards have been confiscated. 2 convicts have deliberately hurt themselves by stabbing their abdomens with sharp items. These self-injuries were inflicted to protest the prison order and demand better institutional treatment.
Mothers of border guards killed in Narkankirgan border outpost demand exhumations of the soldiers' bodies. They were meant to make this announcement on Thursday at a press conference in Almaty. However, only grandfather of Vladislav Chela, who is the main suspect in the massacre, was able to speak to journalists. He said that relatives of the deceased returned home after a meeting with chairman of the Soldiers' Mothers Committee, Ludmila Kostenko, fell through, which is why he voiced their demands alone.
Many of the parents are not happy with the way their children were buried. They insist on exhumation. However, investigators oppose it, although this is the violation of constitutional rights. Grandfather of Vladislav Chelak didn't give specific names, just saying that 6 women are asking for the exhumation. It appears that they are mothers of soldiers whose bodies had not been identified and women who claim strangers' bodies were buried instead of their sons. Reporters reached to the mother of Denis Ray, who is still waiting for the genome expert review results for 4 months. But it turns out that Tatiana was not planning a trip to Almaty. Why would I go there? To be part of the show? They're not going to tell me anything good, so I wasn't even planning this trip. Tatiana Ray says that talks of different remains in the sealed coffins started as early as July. When parents of the murdered border guards were taken to the border post where the tragedy occurred, some of the mothers said that they didn't believe in the death of their children, among other things referring to unknown items recovered together with the remains and even supernatural interventions. We all have visited psychics. All Kazakh citizens are inclined to believe them. We were all told that despite the coffin was shown to us, our son was still alive. We visited 10 psychics and they all told us that he's held captive somewhere. He's on the way somewhere. Why are they saying that if he died?
The investigation over Atarao terrorist acts is labeled secret and closed. The Regional Department of Internal Affairs, National Security Committee and General Prosecutor's Press Services declined to make any comments on the grounds that their press secretaries are officially on vacation.
All reporters' attempts to meet with the new head of the region, Bakhtikožais Mukhambetov, failed as well. During the informal conversation with the local administration staff, reporters were told that they had an order from Astana not to announce any results of the investigation of armed clashes and suicide bombings, because not all suspects have been detained yet. As for the special operation in Kulsare, according to some reports, the investigation is likely to single out the version of all terrorism suspects committing suicide by detonating explosive devices before the police was able to storm the apartment. Although such explanation doesn't match testimonies of families and witnesses. Opposition journalist Zhumabay Daspanov believes that frequent bombings and attacks on security forces are actually tools of political power struggle. I believe that Aslan Musin's son Asylbek, who frequently travels abroad and perhaps decided to stay there, is directly involved with the recent terrorist attacks. It's primarily directed against the president's ultimate support, the National Security Committee, because we all know that the Interior and Defense ministries work a bit different.
The former Mangistau region deputy governor Amangildi Aytkulov will be tried in Kozolorda. The first court session is scheduled for September 24th. Aytkulov is accused of abuse of office and bribery of an especially large amount. In the meantime, the trial over former Zhanaozen mayor is also being held outside Mangistau region. The second hearing in the case of Orak Sarbapev was held on Thursday in Aktobe. Our correspondents are covering the process, and here's their report.
Immediately after reading the indictment, the judge proceeded with questioning of witnesses, which was still in progress on Thursday. The trial has picked up quite a pace, and Judge Shapagat Talnias wasted no time. It is expected that 17 witnesses will be heard as part of the process. These are the same people who have already testified in Sarbapev's case, in addition to new witnesses, since it is possible that the prosecution and defense will ask for more. I want to note that it is easy to see that both sides are obviously competitive. The reason why the trial is held in October wasn't reported by the officials, but the prosecution believes it was done by the Supreme Court due to the load of regional courts. There is also a theory that the trial is specifically conducted in a location distant from the place of work of the former Zhanaozen mayor to ensure maximum objectivity. The first hearing of Sarbapev's case took place in Aktau on May 25th. There he was acquitted, but after the prosecutor's objection, the appeals board of the Mangistau Regional Court ruled to place Sarbapev under arrest. Later, the Supreme Court sent the case for a review to Aktobe.
Azad National Security Democratic Party's lawsuit against Mayor Yusimov, his deputy Seydumanov, and local parliament secretary Mokashov was rejected by the decision of Bostandyk District Court. It is noteworthy that the verdict was handed down in the absence of plaintiffs. Azad party members only learned of the decision on Thursday morning. Thus, the opposition members failed to challenge the authorities' ban on holding rallies in the city center.
Of course, Judge Bigbayev was quite honest, as he didn't conceal the fact that he was executing a political order. His judgment just proved that the outcome of the trial was predetermined. Observers and initiators of the process from the Bureau of Human Rights say the verdict contradicts the Civil Procedure Code. Judge Erali Bigbayev passed his ruling without hearing the arguments or expert testimonies. Social activists say the outcome of the trial was predetermined. However, the process in Almaty to adjudicate the right to peaceful assemblies is just the beginning. A series of trials is now ahead in the regions. Similar claims will be initiated against local administration as well as legislative bodies, with a hearing in Shymkent likely to start soon. After going through all the levels, the opposition intends to send copies of the verdict to the UN Human Rights Committee. According to our statistics, in most major cities of Kazakhstan, officials and local city administrations reject applications for peaceful assembly. This is why the Human Rights Bureau initiated a strategic campaign aimed at appealing against such decisions of city administrations in regional courts.
In other news, economist Mukhtar Tayjan offers to attend the referendum with the demand to exit the customs union, saying that its structure is harmful to Kazakhstan's economy. He's certain that domestic business does not need the same tariff rates as Russia, since the northern neighbor's economy is different from Kazakhstan's. The expert assures that Astana must have its own foreign trade policy and a customs code that would take into account the interests of domestic producers and consumers. Tayjan calls to abandon the word integration, since it leads to unification, which is not profitable for Kazakhstan. It could only be in the form of a mutually beneficial cooperation.
The notion that the whole world is integrating is nonsense. Everyone is preserving sovereignty and fighting for national economic interests. Even Europeans are now disappointed with integration process. Therefore, if we are to have a referendum, the first issue raised should be about exiting the customs union.
Kazakhstan intends to revive something similar to the modern Silk Way. At an international conference on the development of transport and logistics systems on Thursday, officials and leadership of Kazakhstan Railways spoke about their plans for the future. They are ready to build new roads across the country, reduce red tape, and improve the quality and speed of services for the transportation of goods.
The Ministry of Transport and Kazakhstan Temir report about the transition to a new level of business service. The agencies promised the principle based on speed, service, safety, cost, and stability. Two memoranda of creating favorable conditions for the goods transportation throughout the countries of the Customs Union were signed in Almaty. Today, the freight from Europe and Asia is only 150,000 containers. Avoiding complicated foreign terms, the carriers make it clear all they want is to increase transit by as much as 10 times. We target to transit goods from Asia to Europe. As it was announced yesterday, it is quite possible to transport goods within 15 days. However, some technical capacity makes it feasible to reduce goods transportation even to 10 days. In the future, it is said to be just 2 days. Thus, such speed enables us to attract plenty of new business partners. The monopolist is about to propose its services to multinational companies. Meanwhile, local business people prefer other transport schemes. They explain that the principle of BC, bureaucracy and corruption, deters the movement of their goods from Europe to China. The most important thing for carriers is speed as well as the quality of transportation. This directly depends on the government. Yesterday, an expert from the OSCE said 40% of the total time is spent on going through checkpoints. I think it is just an average figure. As for automobile transportation, these figures are even bigger. Businessman Leonid Maksutov also explains that bad roads in Kazakhstan, as well as various documents that need filling out, prevent the transportation of goods. Although the customs union has helped to solve some problems, it has created new ones. Russia, Belarus, and the Ukraine quickly signed an agreement on free trade of the member states of the Commonwealth of Independent States. Kazakhstan has not yet signed it. However, everybody is reluctant to listen to our association represented by Gennady Shostakov. We are just told to work, make our own profit, and stay away from the issue. Meanwhile, officials and executives of Kazakhstan Temir are widely advertising a new innovative project, Electronic Train. It is promised that all the documentation of the goods and companies will operate on the principle of a single window.
Russian citizens picketed the Kazakh embassy building in Moscow on Thursday. Residents of the building that city authorities leased to the diplomatic mission accused the Kazakh side of fraud. They're still waiting to be resettled. More on the housing issue in the next report.
The scandal involving Kazakh embassy in Moscow sparked new controversy on Thursday when several people gathered at the premise with banners blaming Kazakhstan of arbitrary rule and asking Vladimir Putin for protection. This small demonstration was organized by the tenants of the building destined to be taken by the embassy. We've been tolerating this lawlessness for 19 years. When the city started to get rid of shared apartments, tenants were given alternative accommodations, either by the city authorities or private investors. The building on Chistoprudny Boulevard was given to the Embassy of Kazakhstan in order to increase the diplomatic mission's presence. Kazakh diplomats promised to find new housing for Mikhail and his neighbors and even built a new block for this purpose. They built a house in the location where we were supposed to move, but then they sold the apartments in the building without permission of the city authorities. The prefecture sued them, but didn't win, although the unlawful use of land was proven. The prefecture couldn't win the case in court and protect its citizens, says Mikhail. After that, the building tenants, around 50 families, decided to seek justice on their own. But hundreds of complaints, letters and even a couple of court hearings seemed to do little to move the case anywhere. People still live in shared apartments and still wait for the relocation. Kazakhs are deceiving us again, and Moscow Mayor Sobyanin is tired of it. He says that he will stop everything except for the lease of the Kazakh embassy. But people no longer trust anyone, neither Russian nor Kazakh authorities. They plan to make sure that the decision on the intergovernmental agreement is changed and their issue is finally resolved. Today they came to the embassy for explanations, but nobody came out to speak to them, as all diplomats followed the Russian president on his trip to Pavlodar. There is a demonstration near the embassy. Can someone comment, please? No one is here. Everybody left for Pavlodar.
The largest painting of Nursultan Nazarbayev adorns the halls of Humanitarian Law University in Astana. The author claims it is the most massive work of art in the entire post-Soviet region. Its commissioner, president of the university Maksut Narikbayev, is a long-standing friend of the national leader. The official presentation of the painting is scheduled for October 6, and photo and video recordings are prohibited. Our correspondents were able to get a sneak peek of the mural. Here's their report.
The 32-square-meter mural weighing half a ton greets the students of Kazakh Humanities and Law University every morning now. At its center is Nursultan Nazarbayev, accompanied by Astana Mayor Imangalitas Magambetov and university's president and former Adilet party leader Maksut Narikbayev, who commissioned the mural. Other characters on the painting, the university staff and scientists, seem to be less prominent, at least visually. According to Amanat Nazarkul, who created the mural, this is the biggest portrait of the head of state. The artist depicted a historical moment for the university when it was opened in 2008. In total, the work continued for over 9 months. Imangalitas Magambetov was the easiest to paint, but the president's face was difficult as the artist couldn't find the right facial expression to use. In the end, Magambetov was moved a bit to the rear to give the president the correct perspective. It looks as if the head of state is walking ahead. He should be moving forward, so to say. Imangalitas Magambetov is half a step behind, as he should be, and as a result, we get a perspective from the left side. Taking into account the law of perspective, he should look a bit shorter. So basically, no one in the mural should be taller than Nursultan Nazarbayev. Those who get to see the mural every day, university students, only have a few remarks about the work. Overall, the mural adorning the whole gives future lawyers mostly positive emotions. I like the mural a lot because, of course, it portrays Nazarbayev. He attracts attention most when you look at the mural. It is a good mural, all as it should be. There are only provost, his deputy and the dean there, no professors. Isn't it unfair? But I guess they could be on the mural too. At the same time, comments in the internet are not so kind. The mural is compared to the classic examples of the Soviet art, although the country was swimming in Lenin and Stalin portraits back then, but no one remembers them now. At best, they're at the private collections or adorn entertainment centers. Gurzira, a hostess in the Soviet-themed restaurant, complains that youth doesn't really care, and such exhibits are somewhat exotic to them. But she also says that there are admirers for each day and age. When we are 50 or 60 years old, those who are young now will appreciate this art, and there will be restaurants with portraits of Nursultan Nazarbayev. I hope this time will come. Independent journalist Darhan Abdik often writes about arts and culture and believes that new trend won't last long. It certainly isn't a real art, despite the craftsmanship on display. Quite likely, this is just an attempt at the customer to earn the nation's leader approval. Those courtiers and this kind of actions do more damage to the president because all of this leads to the people's indignation. This is a bit too much, and perhaps he should say, enough of this, stop disgracing me. Official presentation of the mural is scheduled for October 6, 2012. Maksut Narikbayev cancelled all interviews before that day, but it is known that he paid $60,000 for the work. According to the rumors, when the mural was shown to Imangalitas Magambetov, the mayor was delighted, while the artist now hopes to personally show it to Nazarbayev. Are you afraid that future generations will blame you of opportunism? No, I'm not.
In other news, Kazakhstan citizens will have to tighten their belts come 2015, declaims the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Presenting the contents of the food basket to parliamentarians at the session on socio-cultural development, Vice Minister Serik Akhmetov announced that its non-food component will grow in the future, while next year the living wage will increase to $125.
Justifying his stance on consumer basket, the Vice Minister informed that its energy value will increase substantially. Based on calculations of Kazakh Academy of Nutrition experts, officials decided to substitute grapes with pumpkins and watermelons with bananas. The MPs didn't support the idea of experimenting with groceries. The president's daughter Dariga said that food prices are going up while the ministry is fiddling with consumer basket setup. She directly asked Serik Akhmetov whether people should eat less. In the meantime, the news stirred quite a reaction of internet users. Many responded with sarcasm, saying that people don't eat much anyhow, yet it wouldn't hurt for the MPs to get on a diet.
Meanwhile, belts are already tightening in the mining capital of Kazakhstan. 23 pavilions where consumer goods could be purchased at reasonable prices were closed down. Around 50 vendors lost their jobs overnight. The reasons behind the abrupt stop are explored in the next story.
We do not want to move anywhere. Let us stay and we will keep working. The grocery prices are low here and our customers are satisfied with these prices. These women have extensive vending experience. They've been working in low-budget grocery stores for many years, but the premise owners told them recently that the store will be closed and all 50 vendors will be fired. They did not give us enough time to sell everything. I took a loan and now I do not know what to do. I have debts and I am out of work. These stalls is where residents of Karaganda have been shopping for cheap food without intermediaries. Until recently, the network had been operated by joint stock company Bereke 2010. According to its head, Saulyajan Tolubayev, the jurisdiction over these stalls has been transferred from the city municipal ownership to that of the region. Now the supply will be managed by the Arka company, which will hold a tender to select traders. Everyone will be employed and interviewed at the job center and will also go through trainings. People who worked here before and meet job requirements will stay here. What is the point of training them? Are they working poorly? Is it not silly to retrain people who worked for so many years here? You have to understand we have our own requirements. In the meantime, the new owners of the chain explained that the previous company duplicated the functions of the Regional Stabilization Fund. Put simply, the two agencies were engaged in the same activities. Also, as it turned out, most of low-budget stores have been rented out and private traders were dictating the prices for groceries. Now the successors of Bereke 2010 are trying to calm down the temporarily unemployed staff. They will not be left without work. Bereke was employing 46 salesmen, and we are opening 120 new job positions, especially for salesmen, so we will work with the job center to hire even more people. We are interested in keeping the current staff. The new administration promises to expand the line of grocery products, as well as install a heating system and sewage network. Meanwhile, the current chaos in popular stores keeps customers on alert. City residents accustomed to inflation doubt that upgraded stores will keep old prices. Take down all these signs saying low budget. Why are you gathering these self-interested merchants under these signs?
In religious news, Astana's imams demand to ban network marketing in Kazakhstan. The chief imam of Khazret Sultan wrote an open letter that was signed by a dozen of his ideological followers. The chief argument against network marketing in the letter is that this type of business is evil. However, certain legislators to whom the letter was addressed did not share the cleric's opinion. We explore both arguments in the next story.
Network marketing was declared pure evil by the Muslim ministers of Kazakhstan. An article by Imam of Khazret Sultan Mosque appeared on the internet where he says that this type of business does not comply with the canons of Islam. The interests which the networkers entice people with are as good as usury, said Kairat Joldubayoli. He also referred to the arguments of psychologists. For those who worked in network marketing for a long time, selling goods becomes an obsession. Therefore, Imams request to ban the activities of such companies in Kazakhstan, referring to the opinions of scholars. Many Islamic scholars consider working in projects related to network marketing forbidden, including Egyptian professor of Islamic economics at Al-Azhar Hussein Shahata, professor of Qatar Ali Muhyiddin State University, as well as many scientists of Saudi Arabia Committee. Sakhanlish Kabulghazieva got involved with network marketing while being a student and worked in this field for 2 years. She recalls that teachers and fellow students lured her into it by promising the moon and bright prospects. It was difficult to collect the required amount for the purchase of the product at that time, and Sakhanlish eventually left with nothing. She failed to make big money, but in fact she was paying less attention to her studies. Moreover, some of her friends got involved with network marketing by her recommendations. I led about 10 people into the network marketing, but I have been listening to their complaints lately. They have invested their money into this business, yet they've received no benefits in return. Sakhanlish is now convinced that network marketing is a sham, yet the MP Jambul Ahmedbekov has a different opinion. On the contrary, he believes this kind of business is almost a cure for unemployment. In fact, he's grateful to the people who established those companies. They provide an additional opportunity to make money for the unemployed, creating jobs for thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. The MP's main concern is the quality of products sold by the network companies. If advertising products and its actual quality are not the same, these vendors should be held liable, he said. In the meantime, the MP is even ready to support network marketers because by shutting down these businesses, the number of unemployed in Kazakhstan will be increased by thousands.
And finally, the dynamic of Kazakh cinema was discussed on Thursday in Almaty. Several works were showcased on Wednesday within the framework of Eurasia Film Festival, and on Thursday, actors and directors organized a press conference. Besides telling how the movies were made, namely Swings of Love, as well as Milk, Sour Cream, Cottage Cheese, they also talked about existing problems. Mainly, the Kazakh movie market is in need of experienced producers.
The domestic movie market needs experienced producers. Sometimes directors do their work, but it is the job of professional producers who should promote local movies abroad and at international festivals. Just this Wednesday, Hollywood producers told us how this institution works abroad. Of course, we're miles away from this complicated financial system they have. Currently, we need producers who want to promote our products because right now we move from one project to the next, as we often don't have time to deal with the finished movies. Also, we're making films that are very different from what is produced in Hollywood. Meanwhile, movie actors touched upon the subject of casting. They say the bar for rising actors could be set higher. Young actress Gulnara Silbaeva, a participant of a popular TV amateur arts contest, is openly criticizing her colleagues. She believes that quite often untalented actors get cast in major roles. I had a chance to talk to well-known young actors and actresses who share the same background as me. There's nothing to discuss with them since they have not accomplished anything yet. What could they offer? It is an issue. Unlike them, we can discuss quite complex subjects. You might start a conversation about philosophy, and I will contribute. We can even talk in English about it.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow.